Good afternoon, everyone. We are just about ready to start here with our first of what we hope will be many webinars featuring systems dynamics in business. And with us today, we have Kim Warren. And I'm going to hand it right over to you, Kim, so to make the best use of time. Here we go.
Okay, thanks a lot, Seth, and thanks for setting this up. What I'm going to cover today is dynamic business models. Now, the phrase business models is kind of all over the place out there, and I'm going to try and make some connections with other ways in which folk talk about business models. One second, get this going. So the business model is very much the phrase of the moment. Consulting companies urge us to understand our business models and to innovate by changing it. Constant innovation seems to be the urging we're getting from the consultants. Investors demand to be told about it. I've recently been spending a bit more time than previously with people in the kind of venture capital world, and that they always want to know what your business model is. And business schools, of course, offer courses about it, and there are endless books and articles on the subject. And this all seems a pretty good idea, but we really do need to know what it is that we're trying to describe and what this thing is and how it actually works. So here's a couple of examples. This is the business model framework offered by the Boston Consulting Group, for example, from their website. And they say it comes from their research. Down at the bottom, we've got what they call the operating model, but it starts at the top with the value proposition. So what target segments of customers are you trying to serve? What product or service are you offering? What's your revenue model? I guess that's what are you being paid for and how much. And down at the bottom is the operating model, the value chain going from the things you buy in and your operating costs, how that's all organized. And you put those two things together and you get what the BCG calls a business model. Oh, by the way, feel free to pop questions up on the chat. I think Seth is going to try and facilitate that and maybe yell at me if I've missed an important question I should be responding to. So that's the Boston Consulting Group framework. This is what PwC call back to basics. They recommend that you should describe how the company is structured and delivers its products and services. They recommend that you discuss the business model in the context of overall strategy, often using the terms interchangeably. That's their words, not mine. That's what they actually say. You should explain how you make money, your model for making and selling the products or services that you offer. Then you should explore value creation activities in free-form style. Again, this is their words. And lastly, you should look at your value chain, showing how the company operates to add value. So lots of describing and discussing and explaining and exploring and looking at, but it's not entirely clear exactly what it is you should actually do, what you should create in terms of the end product from this business model. So there are many financial business models. If you do a search for business models, most of those that have got any to be financial, and they focus on the structure of the income statement. Where does revenue come from? Operating cost fractions, profitability, that kind of thing. Some of the dynamic, they look at how revenue, costs, and profits change over time. What none of these business models do is link those financials quantitatively back to the concrete resources that make up the business itself. So we don't know what's happening to customer numbers, to staff, to capacity, to products, and so on. And they don't attempt to connect the dynamics of those factors, how changes in customer numbers or staff or capacity, changes in product range, and so on, are actually connected to the changes in the financial performance that they're talking about. Now, a very popular tool in this whole field is what's known as the business model canvas. If you look at business model canvas, you'll find some quite high quality books on the topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a business model for a very, very simple business and show how this business model works, and then move on and look at how we can bring this business model to life a little bit. So this is a pretty small company, isn't it? It's not super small, but it's not, we're not talking about EDS or somebody here, or CSC. We're talking about a smallish company, and it serves small and medium enterprises in its local region. Its key activities are, well, it has to go and win clients. When it's won a client, it actually has to take on the IT systems they've already got. It has to provide routine support to those customers. It has to help them with software and hardware upgrades, and it has to hire and retain its support staff. Its key resources are the clients themselves. They generate the money. It's the support staff themselves, and it's the experience of those support staff. Its value proposition is pretty simple too. It attempts to offer low cost but reliable support, so it uses whatever automated systems and methods it can to be able to help its clients. The customer relationships it has, well, being SMEs, this company sells directly to the CEO. They very often don't have such a thing as a chief financial officer or finance director. There might be an accountant or somebody, but they will essentially be selling to the CEOs of their clients, and they provide their support directly to the client staff. This is not a complicated business at all. And the channels by which it actually reaches those customers, it has to go and do upgrades on site sometimes, but most of its support is by phone or online. And unlike many other businesses, it doesn't have any partners at all. It just goes direct to its clients. Its cost structure is driven by the support staff and its basic overhead costs, and its revenue streams. Well, it gets revenue for each hour of support staff team work that are billed to the clients, and it makes a margin on the sale of hardware and software that it installs for its customers. So, as I say, it's a pretty simple business. So this is the business model canvas for this company, and it does indeed describe quite well what the company actually does, but it's got some limitations. There's considerable ambiguity here. What exactly do we mean by resources? What exactly do we mean by channels, partners, and customer relationships? We've got no idea about the scale from this. It doesn't say whether there are 10 potential clients or 10,000. It doesn't say whether we're employing 5 staff or 500. It doesn't say whether we charge them out at $5 an hour or $5,000 an hour. We've no idea at all whether this business model actually works. We'll see in a moment that it both may work and may not. But there's nothing in that description of the business model that will tell you whether the business model is likely to work. We can't test anything here. We can't test any uncertainties. We can't make any strategic choices with this business model, and we have no idea what the performance will be. We've got no information on its sales, its cash flow, whether it's investing anything, and so on. So it's a rather limited basis for doing anything substantial on the strategy or operational effectiveness of this organization. So what do we need instead? Well, what we need is a quantified working model that replicates how the real world works. Now, when we've got that, we can explore the future, we can explore our strategies, and we can see what happens when things in the outside world around us change and impact on our business. And we have got some generic questions that keep on coming up time and time again. First of all, why is the business performance changing the way it is? Where might that business performance go into the future, and how can we improve that future performance? So what I'm going to do over the next few minutes, I know I've got a possibly mixed audience here, some people who know an awful lot about system dynamics and are trying to get closer relationships with the business world. And I know I've got some business people who don't know anything about system dynamics. So I hope I'll tread an appropriate middle course here between those two audiences. As I say, do go on the chat and fire in any questions if you've got any. So here's principle one of what we do. First of all, be clear what it is we're actually trying. What's the question we're trying to answer here? And our fundamental question, our fundamental challenge, is to improve the organization's performance sustainably over time. This is what the business's performance has actually looked like over the previous 24 months. And that's the blue line. The red line is what we rather fear might happen if the situation continues unsolved. And the green line is a perhaps better future. This happens to focus on the number of clients that the company has got, because that's really the focus of what's worrying the CEO. It does, of course, have implications for the company's finances to the point where the company could actually go out of business if it's not careful. So how does our business model help us? Well, back here, the business model was working great. We were doing well, clients were happy, staff were happy, we were making money. We're now operating exactly the same business model according to that canvas we looked at, but it's now in crisis and could collapse. And we could end up back with a situation where it's all working again and everything's fine. So how do we explain the blue line? How do we understand the red line, where that could take us, and how do we figure out what to do to get to the green line? That's a pretty generic questions for most of the situations that we come across and try to answer. So here are the principles, and the principle, here's the second principle. The first one was it is performance over time that we're interested in, and that principle of that worry that we've got about the client numbers stems from the fact that our clients have been experiencing problems. So over on the right here, we've got a chart of what's been happening to the average number of problems that each client has been experiencing per month. So these are kind of complaints from the clients. The company is reasonably well organized, so it's tracking these numbers. It knows what that number actually is. And we've got a pretty reasonable hypothesis that that's been happening because there's been a lot of pressure on its staff. How does the company know this? Well, it knows about its staff overtime. It knows people working late over weekends, that kind of thing. And it tracks the next two numbers, the service demand that's coming in, how much work should need to be done to solve the client's issues, and how many staff hours have we got to serve that. So those are the two lines in the chart in the middle there. So if we drill back behind that, where does service demand come from? Well, service demand comes from the number of clients and from the number of support hours the average client needs. Essentially multiply those two numbers together and that gives you the demand. And you can see that the demand rose to a peak because we've taken on a lot more clients. And in the lower half of the diagram, we can see that the number of staff hours initially increased somewhat, but has then gone down. So the reason that the service capacity has gone down is because the staff numbers have fallen. So clients and staff are stocks in system dynamics terms. They're stocks in strategy terms. They are resources. They are the resources of the business. An important point to make here is that the team we're working with here recognize everything on this diagram. Every single thing on here is crystal clear to them. There's nothing mysterious about it. They recognize all the numbers. They may have had to go and do a bit of digging to figure out what's actually happened to some of those numbers over that 24-month history. But this is all very well-known information for the people involved. So now we come to principle 3, which is what's happened to those stocks of clients and staff, and why? Well, this is the stock of the company's clients, and it's increased. You can see a pretty steep increase in the early months there, and that's because they had a strong win rate over on the left-hand side. And that increase in the win rate happened because the company took on a business development guy to go out and sign up clients. And like any good business development person, that's exactly what he did. Over on the right-hand side, the other point to make is that business development person was pretty successful for a while, and then increasingly less so. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, the company had basically never really experienced any client losses until about 12 months into this historic period. And then clients started leaving, and leaving in significant numbers. By month 24, we're losing 7 or 8 clients a month. So there we go. Client gains grew well, but have nearly stopped. And then losses started running fast. And those losses on the right-hand side have overtaken the win rate, which is why the client stock is going down. Now, again, this is a reasonably easy diagram and figure for the team to understand. And there's nothing mysterious here. This is a spreadsheet showing exactly the same data, but the diagram is a bit easier to understand than the spreadsheet on the right. So the last principle is that there is interdependence in the system, and that interdependence causes feedback. So if you start at the clients at the top, let me just see if I can annotate this with a pen. See if this works or not. Ooh, hold on. So if you start up here at the clients, then the clients lead to demand for service, and that causes pressure on the staff, and it causes staff to leave. So there we've got that bit of interdependence. Meanwhile, we've got the staff here and their balance against the number of hours required from the clients generates the pressure, which causes the problems for the clients, and that leads up here to the loss of clients up at the top. So there we go. We've got interdependence between the staff and the clients there. This is a working model. If you go to sdl.re/IT support, you can actually play with this business and follow through its strategy and the situation it finds itself in, and try some alternatives here. If I have time, I'll come back and actually show you that, but I'll finish off the main story first of all, and come back if we have time. So let's go back over here. So what System Dynamics offers here is some general principles. We're trying to explain and improve performance over time. That performance depends on stocks at every moment in time. Those resources, those stocks accumulate driven by flows, and our decisions and external factors and existing stocks drive those flow rates. The decisions here were, let's take on the business development guy, let's hire staff at whatever rate we're hiring staff. Those are the two key decisions involved. In this particular case, this is kind of self-inflicted pain, so that there actually aren't any external factors responsible for the company's situation. But in other cases, there might be. And you put all those together, what you get is you get a quantified working model of the enterprise. In other cases, you can actually apply it to any part of the enterprise. So we do cases where we're looking just at product marketing issues, or we're looking just at quality improvement issues. We can look at any issue. This happens to be a bit of a mix between an ongoing operational model of the business, but it's actually addressing a specific issue as well, which is this crisis in the client loss rates. And you can extend it beyond a single business. You can go out to ecosystems of related businesses, so companies and their suppliers and their channel partners for reaching the market. So this is the killer here, that this resource accumulation issue. It generates this interdependence, it generates the feedback, and there are thresholds all over the place that cause complexity. So what we've got here then is we've got a living business model that we can actually play with and experiment with policy choices and different strategies and do what we like with it. That's a very simple example I've just taken you through, but we have used essentially the same principles for much more complex cases. This is one that's ongoing right now. This is a company making engineering equipment to clean the ballast water in ships. There are new regulations coming that require ships to make their ballast water biologically clean. They already kind of filter the crud out of the water, but this is actually removing all the organisms from their ballast water to stop them being spread around the planet and causing chaos in parts of the world where those organisms were never meant to be. There are various types of technology. There's a kind of filtration approach, and there's a chlorine treatment approach, essentially the same as you use for cleaning a swimming pool. And the company we're looking at uses a combination of filtration and ultraviolet light for cleaning the ballast water. And this is a new venture for a pretty substantial Norwegian marine engineering corporation. So the business itself is quite small, but it's a part of a much larger parent company. And I won't take you through the details of its business model canvas, just to point out that it's rather more substantial. There are rather more pieces in it. There are many more customer segments to worry about over on the right-hand side. What size of ships, what size of companies operating those ships. We've got to serve the designers of new vessels, and we've got to serve the refit of existing vessels. That you can see the key activities list there is pretty substantial. We've got to develop models, get those approved, we've got to get agents, and so on and so on. This is a more complicated case. There is actually a video on the case at sdl.re/BWT case, and that gives you more information about the case. The cost structure is more complex. The revenue, they get revenue from selling the equipment and from selling spares and maintenance. And this is the control panel for this company's business plan. You'll see in the charts that there are some solid lines, and you might just make out the dashed lines down at the bottom left there. The solid lines are what the model is saying would happen under a certain scenario going forward, and the dashed lines are actual company results. They're a little bit disguised, but essentially that's what the charts are showing. This too is a working model that you can go and play with. It's at sdl.re/BWTS, and this is the whole model. There's nothing else. Okay, it looks a bit scary, but actually if you break it down into its parts, it still follows exactly those same principles that we looked at with the IT support company. Up at the top, you've got the R&D, which is creating the models of equipment. You have small pieces of equipment, you have large pieces of equipment, you have equipment designed for different kinds of vessels. And that's in that yellow section of the model. The grey section there is showing the company's acquisition of agents, that they work through agents in different parts of the world, and those agents give them access to the stocks in the next section down, which is the customers. This particular model is it's only focusing on one major part of the market, which is the refit market. That basically every ship on the ocean has got to be fitted with this equipment in the next 5 years. So that's the refit market. There is a quite separate sector of customers in the shipbuilding shipyards themselves. But the same thing has to happen there. You have to get those customers to approve and want to install your system, and then when you've done that, you've actually got to sell the equipment units into them, because they'll be buying equipment from other suppliers as well as you. There are 35 suppliers, I think, in this particular market. And when you've done all that, you actually land projects. So orders come in and a project starts, and the project goes through a pipeline of stages. First, they have to design the systems, then they have to get them manufactured, then they have to get them installed, and finally the right-hand box in that purple section is systems that are actually in a ship somewhere. And the other parts of that section are to do with the engineers who look after all this. The green section in the middle is the salespeople and how those salespeople are deployed. And the lower right section is all the income statement and cash flow. So where does revenue come from? What's the cost of materials and the operating costs of the business? How much operating profit do they make? And what's the cash flow going to be? And like any new venture, this business is going to be cash negative for quite a while. And the original reason that the CEO asked for help in building this model is because he wanted to go to the board and ask for their support for getting the cash he needed for this venture, which is in that control panel up at the top right there. We have price and competition in the model as well. So why do these models work when the other business models that are out there, or the other definitions of business models, actually, it's not that they don't work, they can't work, they don't even try to do this. These models work because we capture how those critical factors accumulate over long periods. And because they accumulate over long periods, we see big delays happening from actions to results. It's taken the ballast water company about 2 years between getting its first equipment model built and tested and proven, to getting the thing approved by the US Coast Guard and by the International Maritime Authority. So we have very long-term consequences arising from these accumulation processes. I've said we have interdependence in the system, so we've got to get numerous choices right on multiple issues, kind of all over the place. We've got to hire the right number of people. We've got to do the right R&D. We've got to sell. We've got to do the right amount of selling. We've got to sell the right prices. We've got to have the right amount of capacity in place. We've got to chase the customers for payments and all, and so on and so on. So we've got to have lots of things right, kind of all the time, if the business is going to keep progressing and being successful. We can deal with all those feedback mechanisms, and the problem with the IT support company was that a couple of feedback mechanisms had kind of kicked in that the company had never experienced before. So the feedback where the clients were reacting to bad service quality, and the feedback that was driving excess workload that was killing the staff in that organization. And there are lots of thresholds. So things seem to be going along perfectly okay for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden they're not going okay at all. We get bad surprises. There can be good thresholds as well, when things suddenly turn upwards for us and we're feeling pretty happy about things. And the big advantage that System Dynamics has got is not just that it is an advantage it happens to have. It is precisely why it was built in the first place by Professor Jay Forrester at MIT back in the 1960s. It was designed to deal explicitly and quantitatively with all of these mechanisms. It's just worth noting as an aside that agent-based modeling and descriptive event simulations have many of the same capabilities and their application is suited to particular classes of problem. But these three methods are all part of a general class of methods, dynamic modeling methods, that can deal with these kinds of issues. If anyone is looking for more resources about all this, obviously go to the System Dynamics Society for general information about system dynamics, but stuff specifically about its application to business and strategy questions you'll find at strategydynamics.com. You'll find my blog at kimwarren.com, and there are a number of posts about this issue of business models there. There's a YouTube channel for strategy dynamics. We're in the process of trying to kind of organize it a bit better, but it's got quite a lot of free resources there. And it might be just worth mentioning that we aren't quite finished yet. Where we're trying to go next with this is we want to go on from building these models to answer kind of strategic questions like how to plan for the future, how to fix major problems, and make them an integral part of the operational mechanisms in the organization. So if we take the IT support case, it's all very well coming along and saying, oh, well, I can build a model to explain where you've got to and why you've got this problem and what you've got to do, how much to fix it. Wouldn't it have been a good idea if we'd had a model in the first place that stopped us getting into that problem? With the ballast water company, the next step we're taking, we've got a master's student on the case right now, is we are turning this into a month-by-month operational model. So every month, the model will be populated with exactly what's happened to customer acquisitions, to order capture, to order delivery, to hiring, to pricing, to competitors' prices, our prices, and to all of the financials. So that where we're hoping to get to is we have a truly living dynamic model that's got all of the performance information about the business embedded in it, and it is constantly being referred to by the management team to make their month-by-month decisions, as well as looking at the medium to long-term strategic future for the business. I have another similar project going at the moment with a company that has a platform for giving householders good access to an approved range of providers for home improvement projects. That's actually with my friend Rod Brown, who's a long-term member of the System Dynamics community, and he's the CEO for that business. What we're trying to do there is make it even more operationally significant by capturing in real time the week-by-week inquiries coming from potential customers, projects that people are putting out to tender, the pricing comparisons between different project providers, and once again try to link it to the financial performance of the business. So I think I ought to stop there. I've talked for quite long enough. There are two other things I could do if any of the audience would like to do this. The first thing I could do is demonstrate the IT support model. The second thing I could do is demonstrate exactly where in that model some of those mechanisms, those dynamically complicating mechanisms, actually exist. But I think I'll stop there and hand over to the audience.
Thank you, Kim. For those of you joining on the Google Plus page, there is a Q&A section. If you want to click that link, we don't have any questions right now, so I think we're going to take Kim up on his offer to go ahead and demonstrate those two sectors. If you have any questions, please do feel free to use that interface on the Google Plus page. and we'll field those questions as we can. So Kim, back over to you.
Okay. Oh, the other thing I should invite you all to do, I'm not the only person, I'm sure, here working in the business environment. I would really like to hear what other people are doing, getting system dynamics models embedded in companies and either helping them to fix strategic challenges or even help them with their operational issues. So if there's anyone out there doing that, I would really like to hear from you. Okay, just take up Seth's invitation. Here is the working model of the IT support company. I'll just zoom out from it a little bit so you can see the structure. Hopefully you can see down below here the similarity with the slide structure I showed you before. So here's the client stock, clients being won and lost. Here's the staff being hired and leaving because of the pressure coming on them from the work from the clients. And all you do to run this thing, it just opens in your browser. There's a thing called a comparison chart, comparison run control down here. So you can create a comparison run, and that gives you control over two items. The first item you can control is the new client target rate. So if you remember down here, this is the little chart showing the rate at which we were getting new client new client demand coming in, signing up new clients to the business. So you can control that, and with the number set at -1, it just enforces the actual scenario that the company faced. So if we step this forward, we can see things happening. So one thing we might do is just go back a little bit and see if we could have done something a bit different that might have deferred these problems. I've gone back to month 3. So I'm beginning to see month 3. Am I seeing workload beginning to increase? Yeah, seeing workload beginning to increase. So maybe I should be hiring a few more staff here. So let's see if I can hire 5 staff. And by the time I'm getting out to, let's go back to month 12. By the time we're getting out to month 12, my client growth rate is still what it was before. But I'm hiring staff now, and the staff numbers are really climbing quite a bit. Later models in this series, this is just one of the first models in the series, but later models show the impact of there being a kind of hiring and training pipeline. So you don't get all the people you need when you need them. You have to wait a while to hire those folk and to get them trained and delivering client service. But this simple model, this simple first model, assumes that you can just turn on those staff and go out and hire them next month, and they'll come on. There are trained people out there who know what they're doing, and they will turn up. So this seems to have fixed the problem for the time being. The thing is, have we got a lot more capacity than we need here? Well, we've got no pressure on our staff at all. Maybe we can ease back on that hiring, and let's take it back down to 2 again. Let's see if we can survive with the larger number of staff that we've got. And it looks like we can. It looks like we rather overhired during those early months. We never really got to a situation where things were pressured. So that's one scenario we can run. We can go back and try again. Maybe this time we'll try just going forward to the point where we took on the business development guy, and maybe instead of him bringing us 5 or 6 clients a month, maybe we said, well, let's just make sure that we can handle these new clients and only take on 4 new clients a month. we can pick and choose between the clients that he brings us. And if that happens, we go on a little longer before we start getting problems. The client loss rate here, here's the client loss rate. We've put back the time when clients are lost. Maybe we ought to slow down a bit here, maybe only 3 each month. But that's not enough to stop the problems arising altogether. So we defer the problem, but the problem's still there. So Seth, I don't see any questions coming in on the chat. I don't know whether people are having trouble getting at the chat or whether there just aren't any questions. That's the other possibility, I suppose.
So if you mouse over to the left-hand rail, there's a Q&A button, which is separate from the voice and video chat.
Q&A.
And we do actually have one question. If you like, Kim, I'll read it for you, and we can carry.
Oh, okay, I can read that.
Okay, very good.
It's from Tim. Consulting firms that wish to use the methodology, are there any licensing or other requirements to consider? Well, the method itself is in the public domain. The book tells you how to do it, and it's not a costly book. I should say, by the way, that this is not dependent on any particular system dynamics software. It is an approach to solving client problems or solving your organization's problems that you can use any of the system dynamics softwares for. This one happens to be the tool that we've developed really in order to make the way in which people see and follow what system dynamics is doing as simple and clear as possible. So I hope that's helped with Tim's question.
All right, I don't see any further questions. So if Kim, if you have anything else that you'd like to present, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we'll leave the question and answer period open for a little bit longer, then wrap it up.
Okay, let's do that. I think I've talked to everybody for long enough this afternoon. So I'll just hold on and look at the Q&A for a little longer to see if any other questions come in.
All right. While we're waiting for additional questions, I'm going to go over some of the BSIG news. Today, well, actually, not really today, but last month we released our stories.systemsdynamics.org, and to out to the public, we have published 6 articles featuring notable cases from the case repository. You'll see some of them in there in the case repository. Others are going to be posted there. These are new cases that detail particularly notable applications of systems dynamics within business and in some cases health to great effect. So I encourage you to go over there at again stories.systemsdynamics.org and take a look at that content. It looks like we have a couple of other questions here. Kim, if you want to take over there.
I'll certainly pick up the 2 I can see there, but there's a comment from Rafa as well that there's a question on Google+. I don't know if that's something you can see that I can't. Okay. So the question here from Marta, advice for individuals who are getting started. Well, I think the key piece of advice is don't try to eat the elephant right from the start. You may well be asked about some fairly substantial organization-wide challenges, and one of the methods certainly can deal with those. For people who are, as you say, getting started, look for small local problems where you can work with preferably with one key individual who is the owner of that problem. So it might be the HR vice president who's got a problem about staff turnover. It might be the person in charge of sales who's got a problem about how to allocate his or her sales team around the different kinds of customer that they're looking for. It could be whoever's in charge of the service team trying to figure out how to improve the service quality. So pick a piece of the business and have a practice on that first. There's plenty of frameworks in our materials that are available for you to kind of point you to how to tackle specific kinds of challenges in specific parts of the organization. Another piece of advice is to kind of practice offline before you go and see the big honchos on this. What I do quite often working with colleagues on this is that we put together a kind of a simplified demonstration of the kind of issue that the client's telling us that they're interested in. I actually got a call from someone who took my course many years ago, who's now working at the UK Treasury, and they're looking at the issue of how to accelerate the rollout of the next generation of super fast telecoms networks. And we put together a model in about 45 minutes that showed in principle the way in which that process happens, and that's enough to kind of get other people intrigued and interested to say, oh yeah, maybe we could ask question A, maybe we could ask question B, how would that change this model? And then we can get them engaged and start putting real data into it. I hope that's been helpful about getting started. If you ask the guys at IT Support or BWTS how much the modelling has helped them make money or save them money compared to alternative modelling methods, what would they say? Well, in the IT case, make no mistake, this company was in crisis. I mean, they were very much in danger of kind of going out of business and getting sued by clients and all kinds of horrible things going wrong. So that CEO's answer to the question would be kind of, thank you for keeping my business alive, I think. The BWT guy, his first use of this was actually to go to the board of his parent company and use the model to get the board to finance the next stage of the company's development. I mentioned Rob Brown at opun.co.uk. That's opun.co.uk. That's the home improvement platform business that Rod's starting. He has used it he actually gave potential investors access to his model so that they could play with the model and reassure themselves that investing in his business and investing really quite a lot of money in his business was a safe thing to do. So we've got some examples there of people definitely being able to raise money and make money as well. Some of the kind of making money and saving money cases I've been working on recently concern issues in the drugs industry where patented drugs are coming to the end of their patent life and they're going to be attacked by very low-priced generic competitors. And the sums of money involved there are absolutely huge. So trying to figure out what exactly to do from a spreadsheet model when that's your challenge, kind of, it's just not fit for purpose to try to do that. Have I come across cases where the approach has been employed in enhancing an organization's food safety program? I don't quite follow what a food safety program is. Perhaps Patrick could just expand on that in a moment. No, I'm not following the question on that one. A question from Fred about how important it is to capture decision maker behaviors. Now this brings up an issue which is not in either of the models I've shown you, which is that you can make the models capture the way in which the people running the organization actually make decisions. So a later version of the IT support model, if you go to the one I provided the link for, you'll find that there are further links to further models in the sequence. And one of those models in the sequence actually does show how the company should have and should going forward inform its decision making by looking at key indicators of the business and using that in feedback way to change to make their decisions. So the staff hiring decision should be triggered by the gap between the workload and the capacity of the organization. So you should start hiring before the capacity gets anywhere close to the demand that's being placed on the system. They got into this problem for that reason. So you can design a policy here that says, as you see the demand rising, that automatically triggers the decision to go hire people. Now, you might argue in this case that it's a simple enough business that the CEO should have seen this coming, and indeed it is. But it's quite a common phenomenon that in the excitement of business growth and everything going well, people don't think about these things and only realize that they've got problems a bit late in the day. A question from Paul on I was demonstrating parameters partway through the model. Do you have any thoughts on comparing this approach to learning to the more traditional approach of letting the sim run its course to see long versus short run dynamics? I think that's kind of linked to the question on capturing decision makers' decision making processes and how they go about that. So this model did not have that in it. The model that's got a policy for hiring and for business growth locked into it does have that in, and then indeed you can do exactly that. You can let the sim run its course and see what would happen. You can, of course, do this with this particular game. I don't have to, if I go back to that model and simply run it, that's what it does. It just plays out. Ooh, start the comparison, run again. If you run it without changing anything, that's what it does. It replicates the history up to month 24, and it replicates what we fear will likely happen if it goes on the same way up to month 36. So I hope that's answered Paul's first question. Just coming back to Patrick's question. Patrick's question. Organizations in the food and beverage processing and manufacturing industry. That's not an industry I happen to have worked in. I do know that Coca-Cola has used system dynamics models actually built by some of our colleagues in system dynamics. And they've used those models for building marketing strategies across their rather diverse product range in multiple markets around the world. We could pretty easily actually there's an answer kind of hidden behind Patrick's question, which is I was watching a program about the future of food technology on TV last night, and I was struck by a section of that program talking about the company that makes Quorn, Quorn, which is a kind of vegetarian meat substitute product. It's essentially a kind of fungus fermentation factory, and of course that's a process control issue. How to run a factory like that, and that's exactly where system dynamics came from. It's engineering control theory applied to social systems rather than process management systems. So you certainly can use system dynamics for modeling processes, both processes in a particular local part of an organization and processes more generally across an organization. And you can use it, as I said, on the sales and marketing challenges. You can use it on HR issues. And many of those will be very common and very similar across all kinds of different industries. So Patrick, if you would like to follow up with more specific questions, or anybody else, please feel free to contact me at strategydynamics.com. There's a contact thing there. Another question from Paul: how do you include how mental models affect decision rules? Are mental models part of system structure? There are people who know more about this than I do. There's a very strong capability about mental models elsewhere in the system dynamic community. But my interpretation of this is that mental models include both how stakeholders in the situation think the physics of the actual system works, and for the IT support case, that model is mostly about the physics of the system. But mental models also encompass how people believe that they and other people, other stakeholders in the situation, react to what they see and react in terms of their decision making. I should say, by the way, that I've not done a lot of work in the public sector, the governmental sector, but I have to say, compared with the business, compared with that sector, we folk in the business world are relatively lucky. The CEO and the management team usually have got their arms around most of what the system is that they're trying to manage. In the public sector, that's far from the case. I've been doing work on elderly care recently. You've got charities involved, you've got providers involved, you've got the elderly themselves involved, you've got government, you've got taxation, you've got all kinds of stuff going on. When you get out into public policy kind of questions, then mental models are a huge, big deal. I don't know if we ever found the question that Rafat saw on Google Plus. Did you notice that, Seth?
Yeah, I believe Rafat had posted that question to the forum on behalf of both Fred and Alan. So I think we've run the course of questions. If there are any more,
Cool.
We've got a couple minutes left in the hour, but otherwise we're gonna close it up for the day.
Cool. Just to recap, I would seriously like to hear from anybody else doing work in the business sector, and getting some questions up on the BSIG forums and discussion groups. I know Seth is kind of all over that, and getting some useful initiatives going.
All right, I think we have one last response from Paul. He's just saying thank you for the answer to the mental model question. I too am thinking about two classes of mental models you mentioned. So I think we've satisfied Paul there in the question. And given the hour, I think we're going to stop it here at the top of the hour. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you especially Kim for taking the time to present your work. We really do appreciate it. If you joined late or want to review this content, please go ahead and take a look at our BSIG YouTube channel. If you're interested in sharing your own work or know of someone who may want to present, please do let us know. We're booking for our March episode. We'd like to make this a monthly reoccurrence. In the, as I mentioned in BSIG News, we've got stories.systemsdynamics.org that has some brand new content, 6 new articles. We've also been, the Society has been doing a fair amount of effort trying to spruce up and enhance the collection of cases, which kind of demonstrate the breadth and depth of application. So if you're interested in that, please do take a look at both stories.systemsdynamics.org and cases.systemsdynamics.org. If you're interested in learning more about the initiatives of Business SIG and participating in some of our discussion groups or our other initiatives, please do take a look at our website, and that is sigs.systemsdynamics.org/business. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ed. Bye now.